The story begins with a policeman named Charlie who was eating at a restaurant. When it came time to pay, Charlie suddenly realized he didn't have enough money to pay the bill. Seeing his hesitation and discomfort, the waitress, Yvonne, asked, "Do policemen always eat for free?" She thought Charlie was making excuses, so she sarcastically remarked, "Looks like I'll have to pay this bill out of my own pocket." Hearing this harsh remark, Charlie felt deeply embarrassed. But Charlie wasn't the kind of person to take advantage of anyone. He always left a generous tip to the staff after every meal. Then, while checking his wallet, he found his lottery ticket, and a unique idea struck him. He picked up the ticket and confidently told the waitress, Yvonne, "If I win the lottery with this ticket, half the prize money will be yours. And even if I don't win, don't worry. I'll come back here tomorrow and pay double for your meal." Even though Yvonne didn't believe him at the time and thought it was a joke, she finally agreed. No one, not even Charlie himself, expected that this seemingly innocuous lottery ticket would actually win a massive jackpot. When the winning numbers were announced after repeated confirmations, Charlie's wife, Muriel, cried hysterically with joy. After everyone else's share in taxes, they were set to walk away with a whopping $4 million. That was enough money to lift them both out of poverty forever and give them a luxurious life. But even after seeing this money, Charlie's mood was completely different from his wife's. He kept remembering the promise he'd made that morning at the restaurant and was now worried about how he would tell her about it. After much deliberation, he finally decided to tell the truth. He had promised to give half the reward to someone. Upon hearing this, his wife, Muriel, was furious. Knowing her husband's stubborn and overly honest nature well, she knew for sure that Charlie would not back down and would definitely keep his promise. In fact, Charlie had loved helping people since childhood, and it was this nature that led him to become a police officer. He considered it his duty to wear a police uniform and solve the city's problems and minor troubles. He often helped blind people cross the street, was always ready to help pregnant women, and even from his very small salary, he would go to poor areas to donate. Overall, it was impossible to find a more honest person than Charlie. But his wife, Muriel, had a completely opposite and bitter nature. She was not only extremely selfish, but she also openly criticized her husband in front of the customers who came to her hair salon. She kept saying that her husband was very old-fashioned. A few days ago, Muriel had sent Charlie to buy a lottery ticket and strictly instructed him to buy the number corresponding to their wedding date. They were married on the 27th, but for years, due to some confusion, they had been celebrating their anniversary on the 26th. In this confusion, poor Charlie mistakenly bought a ticket with the number 26. Muriel was furious at this and was about to complain further, but suddenly the winning numbers were announced on TV, and 26 was the winner. Muriel's anger vanished in an instant, but her happiness was short-lived, as Charlie immediately recounted the story of the waitress from that morning. Muriel's mood fluctuated like a roller coaster, and she flatly refused to share a large sum of $2 million with a stranger. When she saw Charlie wasn't relenting, she began to pressure him emotionally, coaxing him into lying that he hadn't won the lottery. At that moment, Charlie's mind was completely confused, and he couldn't decide whether to listen to his conscience or listen to his wife. The next day, he stood in front of the same restaurant for a long time, contemplating what he should do. Then, a colleague, a fellow police officer, sensed his hesitation and advised him, "No matter what the world says, just listen to your heart." With this heavy heart and confusion, he entered the restaurant. But before Charlie could say anything, the waitress, Yvonne, began speaking. She said, "Yesterday was the worst day of my life, and honestly, it wasn't your fault. This could happen to anyone." Yvonne explained that she had taken out all her frustration on Charlie because she was deeply troubled in her personal life. Yvonne had come to New York after graduating from college with dreams of acting, but she hadn't found success. Yvonne explained that despite years of hard work, she hadn't found any work, and yesterday, her lousy husband had stolen all her savings. Not only that, but her husband had deliberately racked up a $2,000 debt on her credit card, leaving her completely penniless. Yesterday, she went to court to file for divorce, but she didn't even have the money to pay the court fees. As she left the courthouse, it started raining heavily, and her umbrella broke in half. When she got home, she was completely drenched and had to eat only a dry sandwich for dinner. Afterward, she somehow managed to rush to work, but even there, her boss deducted 2 hours' pay for being late. It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say that yesterday had been the worst day of Yvonne's life. Even today, her circumstances weren't much better, but seeing Yvonne's smiling face despite all the hardships and poverty, Charlie was momentarily confused again. Ultimately, she decided to listen to her heart and uphold her humanity. Apologizing for his mistake yesterday, Charlie gave Yvonne a small gift, a beautiful chain for her glasses. Charlie had noticed Yvonne frequently forgetting her glasses, and now, with this chain, she could always hang them around her neck to prevent them from getting lost. Yvonne's eyes lit up with joy upon receiving this simple but thoughtful gift, and gradually, her trust and respect for Charlie began to grow. After this, Charlie once again placed the decision of her fate and reality in Yvonne's hands. He told Yvonne, "Now you decide for yourself whether you want double the money for tomorrow's meal or half of my lottery prize money." Yvonne, reflecting on her past experiences of her unfortunate life, thought she would never win the lottery, and she didn't want to take advantage of this kind-hearted policeman's kindness. So she simply said, "Just give me double the money for the meal. That's enough." But the next moment, Charlie said with great love and sincerity, "I really did win the $4 million lottery, and I want to fulfill my promise." At first, Yvonne didn't believe this at all, thinking Charlie was mocking her poverty, so she expressed her displeasure. But when Charlie repeated his statement statement with complete conviction and seriousness, Yvonne couldn't contain her joy and began jumping around the restaurant like crazy. She not only hugged every stranger in the restaurant, but also openly announced that the entire lunch was free. Furthermore, she even offered every customer a piece of ice cream. Seeing Yvonne so happy and relaxed, Charlie was relieved that she hadn't lied and had followed her conscience. Her colleague standing outside was also overjoyed at Charlie's decision and Yvonne's happiness. But as soon as Charlie's wife Muriel came to know about this news, she started spewing fire and her temper reached the seventh sky. As they boarded the bus to receive the official lottery prize, Muriel yelled at Charlie non-stop in front of everyone on the bus. But Charlie had already devised a solution to the situation, knowing how much his wife loved to show off, so he gave her a clever advice. When she receives the award on stage, she should say on the microphone, "I'd like to give half of the money to a poor girl named Yvonne of her own free will." Charlie warned her that doing so would result in her photo being published on the front pages of all the major newspapers in the city, and people would call her the woman with a heart of gold. He warned her that she would become a huge star overnight, and major brands would line up behind her. Muriel felt a slight risk at losing the $2 million, but in her pursuit of fame, she agreed. Soon the official award ceremony began, and as Charlie, his wife, and Yvonne reached the stage, dozens of reporters surrounded them with cameras. Under the flashes of the cameras, Muriel put on a wonderful act of being a kind woman with a big heart, saying, "I have no problem sharing my happiness with a stranger in need." The news spread like wildfire across the country, but Muriel's dream of stardom was fulfilled, if not completely, but to some extent, because she had received the money. Her arrogance grew even greater, and she began buying expensive designer clothes and jewelry from all over the place. Charlie's position now became less that of a husband and more that of a bodyguard, following his wife around with shopping bags in hand. On the other hand, Yvonne's behavior was completely the opposite. As soon as she received the money, she first paid off all the old debts left by her previous husband, so that she could breathe a sigh of relief. She then bought the very restaurant where she had once worked as a lowly waitress. Now she owned it and also worked there herself. He even set up a special table there in Charlie's honor, where any needy or poor person in the city was seated and fed with dignity, free of charge. Meanwhile, one day, Charlie went to a shop and witnessed a robbery in progress. With great bravery and presence of mind, he managed to avoid letting the thieves know he was suspicious. He quietly left, called for backup, and then re-entered through the basement. Entering, he saw two thieves scaring people. Charlie picked up a can and hit one of them on the head, then attacked the other. Police backup soon arrived, and everyone was rescued safely. However, during the encounter, Charlie was shot in his left hand, and this serious injury forced him to retire early from his job. His heroic act made Charlie a hero to the entire New York City community, and he was even awarded a medal by the mayor. But even then, his generosity remained unabated, and he pledged to donate $10,000 to a fund for needy retired police officers. Hearing this, Muriel went crazy again, as she only wanted all the money for her own luxuries. She didn't like Charlie's charitable nature at all. Charlie wanted to live a comfortable life and help others, now that they had so much money, while Muriel only wanted the ostentatious life of the rich. One day, the lottery company invited Charlie and his family to a luxury yacht party. There, Muriel met a white-bearded man who claimed to be a big player in the stock market. Lured by the money, Muriel immediately went to him to learn the ropes of investing. Charlie, uninterested in all this, moved away from the crowd. There, he saw Yvonne arguing with a taxi driver. Charlie got off the yacht to help her and tried to resolve the dispute. Meanwhile, the yacht departed, leaving Charlie behind. Yvonne regretted having missed such a big party because of him, but Charlie found more peace in Yvonne's company than in the rich talk. While Muriel didn't even know if her husband was on the ship, she was happy in her own world with the white-bearded nobleman. Meanwhile, Yvonne and Charlie sat down to eat at a nearby restaurant, where a beautiful and romantic wedding was taking place nearby. The sight of it made them both emotional. Yvonne explained that her husband had loved her deeply, but his lies ruined everything. Charlie also shared his story of how he and Muriel had been together since school and married at 18, but now they realized they were very different. Charlie tried his best to salvage their relationship, but things were getting out of hand. After this meeting, an unspoken bond and closeness grew between them. They would go roller skating together, give free rides to children, and rent a baseball field to give underprivileged children the opportunity to play there. She truly enjoyed bringing joy to people. But one day, when Charlie was passing by their house after dropping off the children, Muriel started throwing all of his clothes down from upstairs. A photo of Charlie and Yvonne having fun together had appeared in the newspaper, and Muriel, without questioning, assumed they were having an affair. Charlie tried to reason with her, but Muriel refused and demanded a divorce. She insulted Charlie, even calling him stupid. Charlie understood that Muriel was just looking for an excuse, and that she too wanted freedom from this lifeless relationship, so he agreed to the divorce. Meanwhile, Yvonne's greedy husband returned and demanded $500,000. He threatened Yvonne that since they hadn't officially divorced, he wouldn't leave. Yvonne was forced to pack up and go to a hotel, where she coincidentally met Charlie. Both were now alone and had genuine feelings for each other. But the next day, the media surrounded them outside the hotel and began smearing their relationship, calling it illegitimate. Muriel seized this opportunity and demanded in court that she should receive all the lottery money because Charlie had betrayed her. During the court case, Muriel fabricated a false story that the number 26 was her choice and invoked her deceased father to garner public sympathy. Muriel's lawyer overpowered Charlie and portrayed Yvonne as a homewrecker. When Yvonne was questioned in court, she confessed to being deeply in love with Charlie. Because of this honesty and public pressure, the judge ruled in Muriel's favor. Yvonne was forced to return her $2 million, leaving her devastated. She fled the city to escape the media and the world's hateful gaze. Charlie tried his best to stop him, but Yvonne's heart was deeply wounded. Charlie would sit outside Yvonne's old restaurant many nights. One night, he saw Yvonne sitting there alone. Yvonne felt unlucky for Charlie, but Charlie said he would sacrifice millions of dollars for her love. Just then, a homeless man came and fed them. He was actually a disguised famous reporter who wrote a heartwarming article about their relationship. This article revealed to people what true humanity really is. The townspeople raised funds to stop them, sending them nearly $55 million. With this money, Yvonne regained her restaurant and Charlie returned to the police. Muriel married the rich old man, but he turned out to be a con man who ran off with all her money. In the end, Charlie and Yvonne got married in a hot air balloon and were forever together. Friends, if you liked the video, then like it and subscribe to the channel, and yes, do tell us in the comments how your partner is.